Hey y'all, thanks so much for joining us today at The Heart. My name is Dominic Insenius. I'm the leader of this church community, and I'm so grateful that you have taken some time out of your day in your journey of faith to be a part of what God is doing here in the city of San Marcos. We have a saying around here, you don't have to go to church here to go to church here, and that means you are welcome to enjoy this message from your tablet, phone, or computer, wherever you're watching it on. Big things can happen when we expect God to move. So I pray today that God would speak to you through this message. The message today can encourage you and empower you to move throughout your week and what's next in your life. So enjoy this message. We're in the middle of a series called Redefined. And the idea behind this is to maybe look at some of the things in our life, some of the things in our faith, and what can be redefined, what needs to be redefined. How often do we redefine our faith? Last week, we kind of talked about how, getting married or maybe being in a relationship for the first time kind of redefines how much personal time and personal space you have, right? Even getting a roommate or when we have, some of us who are parents, when we have children, it kind of redefines what a Friday night looks like, what a Saturday morning looks like. It redefines how much time we have. If we get a more demanding job or a less demanding job, it kind of redefines those things for us. So redefining isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a good thing. It's just something that happens to us. But how powerful could it be if we challenged our faith enough to see where it needs to be redefined? There's so many examples of just Jesus and the things that he would do, the things that he would say, and how he was constantly redefining what faith looked like. And so today what I want to do is I want to talk about how Jesus redefined the Sabbath. Now, Sabbath sounds very much like a religious word, a churchy word, and it is. Sabbath was the one day a week, and it was based on the first 6 days of creation. So if you don't know the Bible, or the story is, the legend has it, that God created the earth in 6 days, and then on the seventh day, he rested. So the Jewish people took that and said, we're going to be a community, we're going to be a group of people, we're going to be a nation that works for 6 days, and on the seventh day, we shall rest. And rest is a good thing. If God rested, then they said, okay, well, we're going to rest. Rest seems like it's a good, godly thing to do. And I am actually, is anybody terrible at resting? Okay, yeah. I know. Wow, this is about to turn into a therapy session here for all of us. Is anybody good at resting? One. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, I'm terrible at resting. I feel like I could probably spend the rest of the 20 minutes we have here together listing off things that I need to get done at my house just in the garage alone. These are the things that swim in my head. For a long time, after a Sunday, experience, we'd have church and stuff. We'd get home, and Amber, my wife, her first order of business, 2.5 hour nap. That's what I'm doing, 2.5 hour nap. I'm like, are you kidding me? There is so much to do. And she was like, on a Sunday afternoon? I think I got this from my dad, but if I was in front of the couch, in front of the couch. Yeah, I'm just looking at my couch. If I was... It's not weird, trust me. If I was sitting on the couch, just watching TV, and I accidentally snoozed off, that to me felt more productive than going to my bed to take a nap. Is anybody with me on that? Is anybody's brain? Okay, yeah. Well, at least I'm doing something, right? At least I'm catching up on the Netflix shows. Yeah, so I've always been bad at resting, and I envy people who can rest, who can relax, who can take their time. Welcome. But I wonder for you, when is the last time you actually rested? When is the last time you actually took a real rest? Because I know we take breaks, right? Sometimes after a long day, we turn on Netflix or Hulu or Peacock or Paramount Plus or Disney Plus. Doesn't it feel like we're getting back to just cable? Like, can't we just go back to, you know what I mean? Like, where everything was all together? I can't afford, 20 streaming apps. We can share passwords, though, until Netflix does away with that. Yeah, sometimes you just want to turn your brain off, right? So you get in front of a show or you do something that just like, or you scroll on Instagram Reels or TikTok or on YouTube and you just like want to turn your brain off. You put on some video games, whatever it is. But many times that kind of just like turning your brain off, it might be taking a break, but that's not resting. I know people who they'll go on vacation, they'll be on vacation for 7 days, come back and they're just as stressed. I'm like, well, what did you do over there? Did you just take a long break? A break from your problems, a break from your worries, or are we actually getting rest? And so with the short time we have left, I want to talk about how Jesus redefined what the Sabbath was. Because the Jewish community, the Jewish people, they took rest very seriously. I said the origin of it was when God rested on the seventh day, but what they would do is they turned that Sabbath that was meant to be something that brought rest and peace, it started getting all of these rules and regulations. It started to define, they were defining what rest meant. You can't work. And work means going to take care of your animals. Work means going out of the house. Work means taking a walk, whatever it is. So all of these things where you weren't allowed to do. You weren't allowed to pretty much do anything. And there were 7 miracles that Jesus was a part of, where he intentionally healed people on the Sabbath. And that really riled up the religious people. That really riled up the Pharisees, who were the religious leaders of the time. Because you weren't supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. And Jesus says, well, I'm here. Watch this. I'm going to heal this person on the Sabbath, on the holy day, on the day of rest where you're not supposed to do anything. Watch me do something. And again, I want you to be thinking, when is the last time you really rested? We have this idea of, we are not in a society of rest right now. It's, how many times have you heard the word side hustle? How many of you have a side hustle going on? I do. I admit it. Yeah, okay. We got side hustles. We got hurry up. We got more. We got to work more hours, overtime. Jesus is going to redefine what Sabbath means. Because if we stick to the fact of Sabbath means you work 6 days and you rest the seventh, and you do that religiously, pun intended, if you do that religiously and you never ever change that, then you might be missing what the goal of the Sabbath was. So I want to read, this is in the book of Mark. Mark is one of the Gospels. And in the Gospels, Jesus, these are the kind of the key stories of Jesus, the bigger stories of Jesus, where we get to hear some of the things that Jesus was quoted as saying and some of the things that he was a part of. And in this particular part, it's right before Jesus does some healing on the Sabbath, but he's talking about the Sabbath with some Pharisees. Now, before we throw it up here, I want to kind of give you like I'm going to read right before it so you can see kind of what's going on. So again, Jesus, he's constantly getting into arguments with the religious people. Because Jesus he's come down, and I said last week that if you weren't here, that he didn't come to change the law, he came to fulfill the law. Which, I mean, that'll take you a while to wrap your head around. So here we go. I'm going to read this. On one Saturday, on the day of rest, one Saturday, the day of rest, Jesus and his disciples, they were walking through a field of wheat. The disciples were hungry, so they plucked off some heads of grain to eat. But when one of the Pharisees saw what was happening, they said to him, "Look, your disciples shouldn't be harvesting grain on the Sabbath." Jesus responded, "Have you ever read that King David and his men, what they did when they were hungry? They entered the house of God when Abiathar was high priest and ate the sacred bread of God's presence. They violated the law by eating bread that only the priests were allowed to eat. But there is one here who is even greater than the temple." And then he said to them, this is Mark 2, verses 27 and 28. Then he said to them, "The Sabbath was made for the sake of the people and not for the Sabbath. For this reason, the Son of Man exercises his lordship over the Sabbath." The Sabbath was made to meet the needs of the people and not the people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made to meet the needs of the people. The heart behind the Sabbath is rest for us. Rest emotionally, rest spiritually, rest physically. If our life is centered around, if our life is driven by the things that we feel like we're supposed to do, then we are missing the point of living life. In particular, rest. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. This is the first one. Don't take a break, take a rest. Don't just mindlessly turn your brain off. I do this all the time. So I'm more telling myself this than you. Is anybody, you don't have to raise your hand for this, but you go to check your phone and you just went to go read that one text that came in, and 30 minutes later you like wake up out of this zombie trance that you've just been on social media for that amount of time? Is that just me? Just me and Matt, probably. Mostly Matt. Okay, if you're taking notes, write this down too. Your faith should serve you, not the other way around. That's how our faith turns into religion. When we start mapping out more and more rules for us to follow, we are creating a religion where Jesus came to redefine religion as faith. And what Jesus is doing here with the Sabbath, he's redefining what Sabbath means. Because it seems like they had maybe forgotten, maybe lost track. Maybe had done it for so long, they thought, well, this is how it's supposed to go, and if we do it any other way, then we're not honoring God. But what seems to have happened is they weren't honoring the Sabbath necessarily, as they were honoring their view of the Sabbath. Instead of taking time to actually rest, they were monitoring everybody who wasn't resting in the way that they should. And Jesus comes to redefine. He says, the Sabbath is made for you. The Sabbath is for you. Your faith is for you. You are not for the Sabbath. You are not for the faith. See, God creates these things. God puts these things in our life. Even the Sabbath puts these things in our life to serve us. That's the relationship that God has with us, is to serve us. In the sense of having this gift where we can actually rest. Did you know that rest actually makes you more productive? There are so many studies that taking time to rest, there's a lot of things that happen in our brain, and I'm not a scientist, but as a scientist, I can tell you that all these things that happen in your brain while you're resting. Things are connecting, problems are being solved. That happens when you rest. When is the last time you really rested? When is the last time you got more than 8 hours of sleep in one night? And I know what you're saying, Dom, I don't need more than 8 hours. As a scientist, I can tell you, you do need more, at least, maybe 7. I'll give you 7. When is the last time you actually rested? And see, some of these things are challenging for me, y'all. I mean, all of these things are challenging for me when I speak about these, but rest for me is challenging. I don't know if it's because I grew up Catholic or Hispanic or the dangerous mix of both. But if you got caught napping in my house growing up, it wasn't bad. You weren't in trouble, but it was just kind of this like, oh, wow, why are you so tired? Wow. And it's just better to never sleep than have to deal with that. You know what I mean? Does anybody know what I mean? Does anybody have parents? Wow. Didn't know you were so tired. Wow. Wow. You want to get to bed at 6 p.m. because you're so tired? If you're taking notes, write this down too. When we sacrifice our health for our faith, we miss the whole point. So maybe I can't speak to the rest that you need in your work. Maybe you're working too many hours. I don't know. Maybe you're doing too much around the house. My wife sometimes if she has a task on her mind, she can't do anything else until that's done. And so it's helping to create some boundaries, sometimes with her job, with her work. I like that I'm making this about her. She's not here, so it doesn't matter. She'll never watch this. With her work, with a lot of our jobs, there's always more to do, right? There's always something you can do for your job. Maybe not every single job. Some of you can, kind of clock out at 5 and that's what you do or whatever, and that's cool. But there's a lot of our jobs that there's always something else you could be doing. Like, okay, the work is done for today, but I could be strategizing for tomorrow, for next week, or there's that big thing coming up, and it'd be really good for me to spend some time on that. And I just stress out about all of that while I'm watching a show, you know what I mean? Instead of like making a list or actually doing it. I'm a big fan of just stressing out about what I need to do than actually doing what I need to do. That's where I'm at. That's where my level is. So with Amber, she has this job where there's always something to do. And so we're kind of talking about boundaries of like, hey, can we cut it off at 8 or let's put a timer on it? And she's like, hey, what about you? What about your boundaries? Like, oh yeah, let's talk about me for a second, I guess. It's not just about Amber and what she's doing wrong. Again, she'll never watch or listen. What about my boundaries? What about me not resting? How do I do that? It's absolutely difficult. It's like trying to meditate when you've never meditated before. Has anyone ever tried to meditate for the first time, and was your brain just going, just like distracted? I went to a funeral recently, and it was a Catholic funeral, so they did the rosary. I don't know if you know what the rosary is. It's like this group of prayers, and you repeat the mysteries, you repeat Hail Mary. And there was something incredibly, and I never appreciated this growing up because does anybody appreciate anything growing up? Maybe I just put that on you. That's me. I never appreciated that growing up, but there is something incredibly meditative about the rosary. You're kind of in this state where you're repeating and repeating, and there's just no room for the distraction. So I actually kind of loved it. It was actually kind of beautiful, and I just never appreciated the Catholic Church in that sense. I'm sorry, this isn't an advertisement for Catholicism. I just wanted to share that experience. I want you to be able to experience rest. So maybe you need to take a day off. Do it. Maybe you need to take a week off here in a couple of months. Do it. Maybe you need to take, you're like, Dom, I don't have a day off. I'm busy. Good. You can still be busy and rest. Rest is not the opposite of work, okay? Rest is not the opposite of rules, of religion. Maybe I'll pull back. I'll pull back from all the work stuff. I don't know your job and I don't know your life, but what I do know, What I do know is that the Pharisees, the Jewish people, and it's not like they're bad guys or evil. They're just like, hey, we want to honor God. All of this, all of these rules, all of these ways of doing things, the heart behind it was to honor God. And Jesus came and said, it's not that the Sabbath is bad. I'm not here to heal, and I am paraphrasing. I'm not here to heal on the Sabbath to show you that the Sabbath is bad. I'm here to show you that the Sabbath is made for you, that the faith you have is to serve you. It seems like the Sabbath became this burden. This burden, this chore that people had to do. If it was like, hey, listen, I see all of your faces, and next Sunday, I'm going to need to see them again. Okay? And I just put that pressure on you every week. Every week. I need to see you Sunday. You're supposed to be here Sunday. You should be here Sunday. The rules are you show up Sunday. What else would you be doing? It's the day of rest. You need to stay here. You need to be here, and you need to show up. With that kind of pressure, at some point, this will become a burden. It will become a burden. Coming to church, going to Connect Group, hanging out with us, it will become a burden if it becomes a supposed to. But Jesus comes and he redefines Sabbath, and he says, the Sabbath is here for you. Church, the heart, it's here for you whenever you want. Religion creates this obligation, but Jesus redefines Sabbath and says, you are free to rest. You see the power in that? The power in that of changing from you're supposed to rest to you are free to rest. Have you ever told yourself, you give yourself permission to rest? I think I might do that. Give myself permission I am giving myself permission to rest today for an hour. And then the Mavs are playing, and then I have to take time to watch that. Obviously, it's different. And I do not rest during basketball games, I'll tell you that much. Maybe you need to give yourself permission to rest. Permission to rest, freedom to rest in your faith, freedom to rest from work, freedom to rest from your anxieties. What if you gave yourself permission and freedom to rest? Jesus redefines what rest can look like for us, and we have a chance to step into that. If you could, I want you to close your eyes and bow your heads real quick. I want to pray for us today. Like a lot of these messages, I feel like I'm preaching to myself more than to anybody else. I'm speaking these things to myself. So God, I pray today that anyone hearing this who needs rest, that you would show them where they need rest in their heart, where they need rest in their soul, where they need rest mentally, where they need rest emotionally, where they need rest physically. God, I pray that you would give us the bravery and the boldness that we need to step into that rest, that we would give ourselves permission to rest. Thank you for the love that you have given us, the generosity of your love and your hope and your grace. We walk in that today. We love you. Amen. Y'all, thanks so much for joining us today at The Heart. To find out what is next for you in your journey of faith, I want to invite you to go to theheart.church/next, see what's in store for you, get in touch with us. We would love to be able to connect with you and see how we can partner with you in your journey. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.